want to give a quick thanks to Professor Con Hussey, who helped with the inspiration and research for this podcast.
I just want to say one word to you. Just one word.
Yes, sir.
Are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Plastics.
Coming from you live downtown, it's the Bro by Low, giving you the daily dose of design history. Today we're looking at plastic. Is it a miracle material or a malignant tumor? To answer this question, we have two designers here with us today. All the way back from the 1920s, we have Bauhaus designer Christoph. 100 years down the road, current day designer Liam Lynch. So we're going to kick things off with Bauhaus designer Christoph Tuck. So Christoph, why did you become a designer?
Well, I was born into a proud German culture, brought low by the most terrible event in human history. I was too young to fight for my country then, but I yearn to help it rebuild now. The only problem was I did not know how to do so. When Walter Gropius published his Bauhaus Manifesto, I saw a man with the vision to reinvent the field of the artisan. He wanted to mold the rubble of our country into a vision for the future. This maverick counterculture identity resonated deeply with me. Through design, I saw a path to change.
What, in your mind, are the benefits of plastic?
Post-war, we had nothing. The chemical field advanced with a terrifying scale during the war. There was a plentiful supply of the plastic parcasine, as well as the scientists who could experiment with them. Plastics were plentiful at a time when everything else was scarce. My learning in the Bauhaus focused on form and primary colors. The freedoms that plastic gave me encouraged me to use this material in my career. On another note, in 1927, cellophane was made moisture-proof. For the first time in history, food could be traded worldwide at a low cost to the consumer. In terms of versatility, scalability, and affordability, there is no material better than plastic.
What excites you most about design?
Old design is dead. I am at the head of a new way of thinking and doing things. Parcasine can be used to make relatively cheap products that imitate the look and feel of traditional materials. For example, a faux ivory ashtray. Something that people in my time find fascinating is the lifespan and robustness of plastic. You can drop it and it will bounce, not break. Plastic will not tarnish over time and will last you your whole life. It was seen as an alien material. The most exciting thing about design is that tomorrow I could discover that a new invention has been made to plastic, which could easily lead to the revolution of an industry. We are in a new industrial revolution, all of our own.
What do you see as the biggest issues or problems that face your society?
Undoubtedly, what I see as our biggest chasm to cross is, how can we rebuild our country to the prosperity we once knew? My generation has seen nothing but the destruction of our homeland, squabbling like children over the corpse of Europe. Then to follow that with the worst pandemic of our times, the Spanish flu. Perhaps the biggest problem we face is, how do you give people hope in a time like this? The existence of plastics is a signal to our younger generation. The future is ripe with endless possibilities. There is no problem that we as a society cannot solve.
Well, that's what a designer from the 1920s thinks. Let's see how things change looking 100 years later. I'll let Niamh take the reins and interview our next guest, Liam Lynch, who has quite a different opinion on the role that plastics play in design today.
Thanks, Megan. So, Liam, can you tell me why you decided to become a designer?
Living in a world that's sacrificing tomorrow's scarce resources for today's profit drives me to make a difference. The EPA says that only 30% of recyclable material ends up being recycled. Our current ways will come back to bite us. It's time for a change. I saw design as that opportunity.
And what, in your opinion, are the benefits of plastic? Do you agree with Christoph that they are a miracle material?
Plastics are a cheap and handy material. Their flexibility in manufacturing makes it versatile and cost effective. But it is the devil's bargain. The byproduct of plastic production are harmful toxic chemicals and cause the exploitation of second-class citizens throughout the developing world. What used to be a miracle to the Western consumers is now a hell for the world's poorest.
What excites you the most about design?
Design is a platform for change. We can look at the 1920s to see that. It's time for new thinking, rather than relying on poisoning the planet for profit. I'm part of a new generation, steering the new wave of design. My hands are on the wheel. All of ours are.
And what do you see as the biggest issues or problems that face your society? Is Christoph correct in thinking that plastic conveys a beacon of hope for the future?
The most pressing issue is climate change. Our plastic waste is causing this symptom of our consumer-based society. Where before plastic may have been a symbol of what humans can do, it has become a question of what humans have done.
Well, I can certainly see a lot of myself in you, Liam. I admire how you have the courage to question the tradition of your predecessors. Yet, I must disagree with putting the blame on plastic. I can see no problem coming from plastics, other than there being a shortage of it. How am I supposed to believe that the fundamental ecology of our planet is being altered by a single material?
Well, they say a picture paints 1,000 words. I'd like to show you something. Could you tell the audience what you see?
What is this? Am I looking at a battlefield?
No, this is actually a landfill. Think of it like a massive bin for plastics.
You must be kidding. Why do you need a bin for plastics when they last forever? I've had my Parkersine Aschenbasher for the past 3 years. The plastic floors at the Bauhaus are repaired every 2 years. Where is all this plastic coming from?
I know this is strange for you to consider, but the way we do things now is completely different to 100 years ago. After the First World War.
First World War?
Oops, forget I said that. Plastics began to replace other traditional materials due to its versatility. It is easy and cheap to mass produce, to the point where half of all plastic waste in 2015 was just packaging alone. The problem is, after it served its purpose, it becomes useless to us.
So how can you blame the horse when the driver steered the cart into the ditch? Perhaps it is the people in your time who are the problem. Their throwaway attitude is the problem. You would be hard-pressed to find a German in the 1920s who would throw away any materials. You are the irresponsible one, blaming the material when the fault lies with your use of it.
Our reliance on plastic stems from your generation. The 1920s saw plastic production as alchemical wizardry rather than rational chemical processes. Chemical utopians like you encourage ignorance, encourage people to regard industrial chemistry as a democratic source of limitless material. Now my generation, my planet is suffering because people like you feigned ignorance for years.
Do not blame me or designers like me. We were the remnants of a world ravaged by war. And we chose to look to this future, not the past. Now it is your job to look to this future, instead of wasting your time on the mistakes made in the past. Why do you not look for alternatives as we had to?
We are trying to do that. Scientists have created so many alternatives to plastics, from disposable cups made of used coffee beans to seaweed water pouches. Yet, because of the public perception created by those in the 1920s, we still find ourselves enamored by plastics.
You have enamored yourself. Yes, you created all those materials. I applaud you for that. But I did some research into your time. Almost half of the plastic ever manufactured has been made since the year 2000. 3D printers, a technology that would have been respected in my time, is instead being used in 2020 to produce throwaway products to facilitate consumerism. Can you modern designers say that you are really, truly trying to distance yourselves from plastic?
I have to agree with you there, unfortunately. We in 2020 need to start changing what we prioritise as a society. Fast consumerism or a sustainable future. We need to send as strong messages as designers as you did, and all as one say, here is when and where we began to make a change. Yet, I feel that the way forward for myself and other designers has been made harder by a century of plastic worship. a worship that was exacerbated by 1920s designers. They had the best intentions, yes, but the actions resulted in the worst of consequences.
And there you have it. Certainly, some interesting insights gleaned from a look back into the past. Plastic. Was it worth it? We'll let you decide.
But the 1920s was only one decade in a century where design changed constantly. Tune into the next segment, where Adam and Shane will discuss the 1930s and Raymond Loewy, the man who modernized and streamlined the landscape of design.